Brian, it is going to be an exciting next 2 weeks. Holy mackerel. We have got some, I don't know, some inauguration or something coming
Hmm.
up. Trump is expected to sign 100 executive actions and or bills that day. And of course, that's going to mean a big change in direction for the country because that's what a switch in administrations does.
Hmm.
And so the stock market seems a little jittery about that right now.
Hmm.
But it's normal and maybe not. Maybe when you have the orange man coming in, nothing is completely normal, but it's gonna be interesting. I mean, we're in the news business, so getting news is always important. Well, that will be followed uh, exactly 1 week later, well, a week and 2 days later, by Tesla's earnings. And that happens to fall on the same day as the Fed is not going to decrease rates. So that's going to be an interesting day for the markets as well.
Well,
Yeah,
I'm glad I could sit here and listen to all that. Thanks for your time, and I hope that was helpful. Everybody leave
I'm
comments.
just
Oh,
setting up the
oh,
deal.
right.
I'm
Oh, sorry,
setting
I
up I
misunderstood.
mean, this is a setup. It's called a setup.
I know.
You do? Anyway. Well, anyway, because it's earnings season, I've started arranging my questions because I will be on the phone. They will call me and say, Randy, for this year,
Mm,
decided to let you ask all the questions
hmm.
because the
Hmm.
other questions have been so bogus and so stupid. We've decided to get somebody in here who actually, can ask some intelligent questions. Well, you be the judge. I've got a list of 10. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay, my first one is one which might require speculation. The status update, Elon. What is the status update on the 4680? Where are we in Austin? Are we there yet? Are we at the 100 megawatt hour run rate? What's happening in Reno, where we're supposed to have 500 megawatt hours? What's happening in Berlin, where we're supposed to have 100 more megawatt? What's happening with Panasonic's 4680? They say they're almost ready to come out. Even CATL, I think, is working on a 4680. What's happening there? And will there be various chemistries?
Oh my gosh, that is so many questions, Randy. So I will share. We'll start with Texas. I suspect that they are still struggling to ramp, and that is why we have seen production slowdowns on Cybertruck. Now that it's eligible for the credit, I believe orders are picking up again. Uh, a big 10% discount is not nothing. That's a good chunk of cash, almost 10%. That should drive sales. I mean, it should drive sales. And if it's not, I believe that is because we have a 4680 bottleneck because these are fairly large battery packs. They need kind of a lot of batteries for them. You asked about some pretty crazy numbers out of Reno, and I have not seen a 500 gigawatt hour number before. It was originally designed for 35 gigawatt hours, and it has only, to my knowledge, increased to like 50-ish. So I don't know about 500 gigawatt hours
No,
out of
no, no,
there.
separate. Not Panasonic's part.
Oh,
Tesla, Elon had said, made a very clear statement a long time ago, 3 or 4 years ago, that they would be installing 500 gigawatt hours of 4680 production by Tesla in Reno somewhere.
okay. I don't think that's begun because to increase at that kind of scale. They could increase incrementally within their existing footprint, but to 10x their output, they'd need more, more, more
Nice.
factory space. And we haven't seen that kick off just yet. But we know the plans have changed a bit there. We thought that semi was going to be built in the existing emerald footprint of the factory. And we see now that it's not, it's next door, which is fine. From a logistical standpoint, it's fine. And that leaves more room for them to expand the battery alone operation. You also asked about Panasonic's separate 4680s. As far as we understand, that factory is complete and it is at least in trial production, but it may be in full production. Panasonic is very good at making batteries. That would happen. And the last part that I remember, well, you also asked about Berlin. We know that they had built that building to make batteries. I don't know if it has been, if the commissioning has begun. We've seen a lot of equipment go in there. We've seen a lot of work going on, but we haven't heard anything about it. So it's possible that they are making cells and just shipping them to the US for use here because we haven't seen any evidence of them being used there. I don't think they would want to stockpile things that are that valuable. So then you've got, and on that, I don't know how gangbusters they want to go until the lines in Texas are working exactly right. And the last thing you said was about the CATL LFPs. Those are not going to be in 4680 form factor. The
Well,
equipment that was,
CATL is not going to make any 4680s at all?
that is my understanding. They are making prismatic batteries. The equipment that was purchased by Tesla from CATL, that the CATL engineers are helping to commission, is not for 4680, but for prismatic cells, which would be, a semi-structural pack, not a full structural pack. And that's what the equipment is good at making. So it wouldn't get all the advantages, but it would get most of the advantages and be an LFP. And by the way, later this week, I'm going to have, by now, maybe it's about come out, an interview with the CEO of First Phosphate in Canada to discuss phosphate mining in North America.
Oh, wow. All right. That'll be cool.
Yeah.
All right. Number two, what is the eventual capacity of the new semi-truck factory? We know 50,000 is your number for the initial run. What is your vision for the future of Tesla in that business? 100,000 a year, 1 million a year, which is my number. Brian Wang's hope that the entire market of around 4 million will belong to Tesla. So what's the vision? What is the actual capacity?
So we know 50,000 is what is the stated capacity. The factory appears to be larger than that it could make more than 50,000 within that existing footprint that we've seen them putting up. 50,000, though, is a lot. That's about 40 gigawatt hours of batteries. They don't currently have spare 40 gigawatt hours of battery. That's too many. They will need to ramp the production of batteries to match the demands of the semi. Then you've got the question of how many can they make? Well, the US market is only like 250,000 a year. That's already a 20% market share. That's pretty good. That is rivaling some of the biggest players. If you double it to 100,000, now they're at 40% of the market. Nobody has 40% of the market. Nobody sells 100,000. So do you ramp beyond that? Because there are other countries. Canada needs trucks. Mexico needs trucks. I don't see the semi selling south of San Diego anytime soon because the charging infrastructure may not be sufficient for their needs. The savings in electricity over gasoline may not make sense in a lot of those markets. And it's an expensive truck. So, but Canada would certainly buy their share. And then it comes to other countries. Sure, you could sell them in all those other countries, but wouldn't you rather put a factory there to do that?
Yeah.
So I think in terms of Reno, I think it would top out south of 100,000. And I think it would cater to just the Western Hemisphere, and that production for Europe and Asia would happen in localized factories there. And I haven't looked at the size of their markets, so I don't have a good answer on how many units that would be.
Okay, so
But
number
I do think 1 million is crazy talk, and that's out of the question. And I think 4 million is very crazy talk.
just so you know, this would be Brian Wang's numbers.
Oh yeah, yeah. No, I heard you. I
Yeah,
heard you.
he again, his estimate based on his research is that there's 4 million total sold, roughly
Right.
4 million sold total each year. Now that counts
Yeah.
what are known as large trucks, which are similar to our semi trucks, but not exactly the same. Uh,
Right.
and so when I say 1 million, that would be 25% of the world market. So
Right.
that would be, as you know, as Tesla seems to want to do, 25% of the world market seems to be kind of their sweet spot on the products that they're working on. Number three, you've said, not you,
Not me.
Elon, you've said that you want to manufacture 1 terawatt hour of battery storage per year. What is your personal target for getting to that number in terms of what year? When's that going to happen? When will we hear more factory announcements for Megapacks?
Love it. The next Megapack factory's got to be announced soon, right? They want localized cell production. There's not much LFP production outside of China. So it may be that they're waiting for one of their preferred suppliers to get a factory up somewhere else, Europe, for example, and then they would announce, yeah, we're going to build them in Europe too. In terms of the 1 terawatt, is that, do you know, a number that they've said they would produce themselves in-house or that they would deploy? Because if we're talking Megapack, they don't make the battery cells for the Megapack, they purchase them and deploy them. So I think if you include Megapack, the road is a lot clearer. If you're talking about production in-house, it ain't happening by 2030.
Okay. I'm not sure that there was very little clarity on the 1 terawatt hour question.
Yeah.
I mean, even when right after he stated it, I raised a number of questions around that number. It seems to be a very, at the time, a couple of years ago, it seemed like a doable number. If you started really cookie cuttering quickly, that you could get there by 2030. But now we're to 2025 and it's starting to seem less and less likely. But maybe if it's 2035, that's fine. I'm just curious if that's still a goal and what year that might be.
Yeah. So if you had asked me 2 years ago, 2030, 1 terawatt hour, I'd have said, yeah, I can see it because 4680 is going to be made in Texas, in Reno. There's some being made in Fremont at the Cato Road facility. It's going to be made in Berlin, but those volumes have just not materialized.
Yeah, yeah.
If you lump back in cells made by others, but deployed by Tesla, and I don't mean in the cars, I mean just in stationary Megapack Powerwall, then it's a little bit more doable, but even still, by what year? Too far over the horizon for me to guess.
Number four, you seem to be making little nibbles here and there at the wholesale retail electricity market. We've got what are they called? I always forget what it's called. The power
VPP.
VPPs. We got the VPPs. We got the Texas retail business that's going on. We've got a kind of an arbitrage retail business going in the UK. We've got, all these little nibbles. Is this ever going to become a serious business? Obviously, if it does become a serious business, it could be trillions. Or is this nibbling just going to continue? What's your vision, Elon?
Well, Randy, uh, I think the thing holding it back is that other customers are willing to pay so much more for megapacks. I think if Tesla was able to manufacture more megapacks than the market demands now, that they could get into that business more aggressively. But it's hard to justify when you've got customers saying, I'll give you $1 million for that thing. And you're like, really? $1 million? I mean, God, that's some serious money. And we'll also pay you ongoing fees to keep it maintained. So I think that would be something you could see where where it takes some time to deploy. I see the bigger opportunity being when vehicles are using primarily LFP, then vehicle to grid makes sense. Then every car that goes out the door could be part of a virtual power plant. And then Auto Bidder can run it. And at that point, yeah, maybe you're only making a buck a day off cars. Right, but you sold millions. You'll probably have 1 million a year going out the door that are willing to be part of this. That's $1 million a day from 1 year's production by putting cars into a virtual power plant. Now, not everywhere allows you to feed into a grid. Very few places currently allow you to participate in a virtual power plant, but that's going to change. This is something that the grid operators need. They know they need. They may not want it, but they got to keep up. So they'll be on board. I think the biggest rate limiter right now is that Megapacks are in too short of supply. And the permitting process, it just takes it takes time. And then you got to get the transformers. Those are in short supply. It's tough.
All right. Number 5, will Optimus be able to hold a conversation similar to 3CPO in 2025?
Uh, yes. I mean, yes, absolutely. You just put, I mean, we're there. We're there. First, your Optimus will be named Model 3 or Model Y, and it's going to be the same engine running it. It's going to be Grok inside. Your car will talk to you, and the conversation you were just having with your Optimus can continue in the car because we were in the middle of something. Let's finish that discussion because I think your Optimus persona will follow you around like through your phone. You know, it'll be part of your app that knows where you are, and so without a doubt. Now, will you and I have access to it? No, not yet, not that quickly, but it'll work. The next time we see an Optimus demo, it will not be a bunch of puppeteers behind the curtain pulling levers and saying things that were less clever than I'd have hoped. But, you know, they were nervous, a little bit of stage fright. They don't have experience.
All right. Number 6, Elon, you have really been coy about the pricing of Optimus and even whether they're going to be for sale or only for rent, especially in the early going. Have you decided on that? And what would be the rough price or the rough rental?
So he has said very clearly they will be for sale. You can buy one. Um, can you buy one in the first wave? I hope not. I hope in the first wave, nobody gets to own them because if there's any issues at all, you don't have to even think about warranty. Warranty isn't even a thing. Well, what if the hardware isn't good enough? What do you care? They'll just send you out a new one. Don't even think about it. And it also removes some product liability where people could get very upset with it not performing right. Who cares? The lease is over, send it back, or we'll send you a different one. Doesn't matter. So they will be available for sale at some point. And what he said is cheaper than a car. He just didn't say which car.
Yeah. I think the cheaper than a car part is years out. I think it was
Oh, really?
I think it was really uh, responding to the idea of a residential unit being cheaper than.
Sure. And I think he'd be crazy to sell Gen 1 for 25,000.
Yeah, absolutely.
Make hay.
Yes. Yeah. Make hay while the sun shines.
Yes, sir.
All right. When do you think that Tesla will be? Oh, I'm trying to read my own question here and understand.
Ah,
Ah, yes. When do you think that Teslas will be in use as robotaxis pretty much worldwide? When do you think the robotaxi network will be in Europe, in China, in the United States, in Australia, in South Korea, yeah.
I think Elon would answer that. It will begin in 26. And that rollout is entirely dependent on local regulations.
So, but we would hope, Elon, that you've got extremely good lawyers and or technologists and whatnot working with the EU. The
Sure.
United Nations put out something yesterday saying that they expect to have their regs finished on April 1st, and giving some indication of what those regs are going to look like. So I'm sure you've got people talking to these guys and have some idea about the timing of these rollouts.
So the first of all, I want to clarify. I saw someone in the comments on one of your videos say, the UN, old man, what are you talking about? So I looked it up. Yeah, the UN does issue guidelines on these things. They're not, you know, necessarily binding, but they are they still exist. So they are definitely working with agencies around the world. They'd be crazy not to, but not in every country. And they don't need to because, as we've discussed, a lot of countries just adopt the policies of their big brother, you know, their cousin that they trust. Not every country needs to have an entire committee formed to establish these regulations. It's still going to take ages, and in some places there'll be protectionist policies to ensure that humans still have jobs, even though they're no longer meaningful jobs. So yeah, it is just impossible to say. But the reality is the demand will be sufficiently strong in markets where it is available that Tesla and anyone else who gets a working robotaxi in that time will have plenty of time to move every unit they can possibly build before those other markets open up.
You have said that Optimus will make Tesla worth $25 trillion. And you agreed that Cathie Wood's analysis of Tesla at 7.5 trillion by 2029, just with Robotaxi and not counting Optimus, was a good job. That was like we should pay attention to what she's saying. So when do you think, Elon, that Tesla becomes valued at $32 trillion or more?
Now I'm Elon, right?
You're Elon, yeah.
2 weeks. And no, seriously though, end of next year at the latest. Those are the two timelines that he gives. Is it's either 2 weeks or the end of next year. Randy, I don't do drugs, so these questions don't make sense to me. I would love to see a 10x, 20, 30x, but I have looked at the monster math done by CERN Basher and Brian Wang and others. It's not impossible, but I don't know enough to say.
Okay, all right. Okay, good. All right. By the way, I have the same math as CERN, so and actually before him. Yeah, but CERN's is more detailed, and he puts it up in those fancy, colorful charts.
Well, and what I said to CERN in an interview that he did on my channel is, "You're holding back, aren't you?" And he's like, "I have to. I have to. I have to. It's still crazy, I know, but I have to hold." It's like, yeah, because once you start putting in the real numbers, you start, it's like, I don't know if you know this, but Olive Garden famously has unlimited breadsticks. I tried to order it, but I almost consumed all of the atoms in the known universe because they were, as it turned out, unlimited. So you got to be careful.
Yes, and my partner who was 6'7", about 320, said that he went to an all-that-you-can-eat place, and pretty soon they came up and said, "Sir, that's all you can eat."
That's all you can eat, my friend. Yeah. The
So,
problem with all you can eat buffets is people take it as a challenge.
I know, I know.
Oof.
Anyway, one of the final concerns around FSD is sign reading. Will FSD ever actually read signs anytime soon? Well, not ever. Will it read signs? Because I'm sure someday FSD will be able to read signs. But in the near term, will FSD be able to read road signs? Or are they going to have to actually memorize all the different pictures of kinds of road signs in order to interpret them?
My guess is that they will have to memorize the street signs because I am not convinced that the camera fidelity at that distance is sufficient to read a sign in time for it to be useful. If you look at my little intersection where it wants to get T-boned sometimes because it thinks it's a four-way stop, even though there's a sign right there that says cross traffic does not stop. I don't know. The sign is not very big. I am not convinced that it could make out that it could read it adequately. So I am of the opinion that it will have to memorize some of that stuff.
Okay, so you're not taking the leap over to the computer science of this particular subject, but just
It may be able to read, but I'm not convinced that it could read every sign every time.
got it, got it,
And I think that's too big of a risk.
got it, got it. All right, well, Elon, thank you so much for answering my questions. I mean, this has been great.
If Adrian Dittman gets to be Elon, I get to be Elon too.
I can't believe that there was ever that discussion on X for days and days and days about whether Adrian Dittman was really Elon
It's
playing.
a Yeah, it's an IQ test. And I tell you, a lot of people failed.
There was another IQ test this morning, I think. Maybe we could dig into it just for a second here because I didn't have time to follow it up. Some people were saying that Elon employed somebody to play Diablo for him in order to get him to the world record. Was that a rumor, a speculation? Was that something Elon has admitted to, or is this a complete another nutcase?
So I haven't followed it super closely. Elon has not admitted anything of the sort. Um, it is a rumor started by people who play Path of Exile and Diablo at that level, who are saying there are irregularities in his story that lead them to believe he may have paid people for some of the gear that he has, or may have had people play his character to level it up. Um, but it's all a big noisy distraction, and I just can't bring myself to care. Uh, Randy, I'm sure you have hobbies. If I had to guess, they're about bicycles and water bottles. But
They used to be.
whatever your hobby may be, as long as it's safe and legal, good for you. Some people love kayaking. Great. Whitewater rapids, go for it. It's not for me, but I don't care what you do on the weekend. Um, I want you to unwind and have fun. I think that's an important part of life. I think Elon spent a lot of years doing nothing for himself. Let him have it.
All right. Well, that's a good place to stop. I didn't know we were going to ask Elon about that, about his Diablo habit, but
Oh, yeah, no, he would have said something a little more colorful.
Follow Brian on Futuraza everywhere. And to all of you out there, as always, it has been phenomenal talking to you.